First, they came for the women. I did not speak out because I'm not a woman. Then they came for people with disabilities. I did not speak out because I am able-bodied. Then they came for African American people. I did not speak out because I am not African American. Then they came for the immigrants, and I did not speak out, for I am not an immigrant. Then they came for the Muslims, and I did not speak out because I am not a Muslim. Then they came for the Jews. I did not speak out because I am not a Jew. Then they came for the LGBTQ plus community, and I was afraid to speak out. Then they came for my family, and there was no one left to speak for us. Good morning. I am Reverend Michael Everett Davis. I'm ordained as an interfaith minister through One Spirit Interfaith Seminary, and I'm serving as spiritual leader here at Unity of Indianapolis through Special Dispensation and Unity Worldwide Ministries. What I just read to you is an adaptation of a poem. And Ed and I were just at the Parliament for World Religions in Chicago this week. We left Sunday afternoon, we got back yesterday afternoon. And in the speeches, we heard at least 2 different versions of this poem. There were over 7,000 people from various faith traditions and various countries gathered at the McCormick Center in Chicago. And we were all there celebrating diversity and demonstrating that it is possible to live and pray side by side. The theme for this parliament was called A Call to Conscience, Defending Freedom and Human Rights. Carol, could you go ahead and do that next slide for me and just leave it there? So this was the slide for the parliament. So, a call to conscience, defending freedom and human rights. It's kind of radical, don't you think? For a gathering of religions to be defending freedom and human rights. Let's go back 130 years ago. In September of 1893, the first Parliament of World Religions convened in Chicago. It was around the time of the World's Fair. And I'm going to read from a page on unity.org. It's an article written by Reverend Eric Page, How Unity Adopted Eastern Religious Ideas. It was at the Parliament of World Religions that Swami Vivekananda, considered a key figure in the introduction of Hindu philosophies and interfaith awareness to America, spoke of religious tolerance and universal acceptance. From there, Unity founders joined other groups in challenging the widespread Western understanding of the divine. While today the idea of God expressed in different religions is especially popular, the notion was relatively new when the Fillmores began their quest. And the speech delivered by Swami Vivekananda on September 11th, 1893, at the first World's Parliament of Religions on the site of the present-day Art Institute. Perhaps you have been there. I'm going to read you his speech. And as I read this speech, I want you to listen to it. Realize this was delivered 130 years ago. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were there, and they heard this speech in person. Listen to it. Find those things that he says in here that we say in Unity teachings now. Sisters and brothers of America, it fills my heart with joy unspeakable to rise in response to the warm and cordial welcome which you have given us. I thank you in the name of the most ancient order of monks in the world. I thank you in the name of the Mother of Religions, and I thank you in the name of millions and millions of Hindu people of all classes and sects. My thanks also come to the speakers of this platform who, referring to the delegates from the Orient, have told you that these men from far-off nations may well claim the honor of bearing to different lands the idea of toleration. I am proud to belong to a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. We believe not only in universal tolerance, but we accept all religions as true. I am proud to belong to a nation which has sheltered the persecuted and the refugees of all religions and of all nations on earth. I am proud to tell you that we have gathered in our bosom the purest remnant of the Israelites who came to southern India and took refuge with us in the very year in which their holy temple was shattered into pieces by Roman tyranny. I am proud to belong to the religion which has sheltered and is still fostering the remnant of the grand Zoroastrian nation. I will quote to you, brethren, a few lines from a hymn which I remember to have repeated from my earliest boyhood, which is every day repeated by millions of human beings. As the different streams having their sources in different paths, which men take through different tendencies, various though they appear, crooked or straight, all lead to thee. The present convention, which is one of the most august assemblies ever held, is in itself vindication, a declaration to the world of wonderful doctrine preached in the Gita. Whosoever comes to me, though whatsoever form, I reach him. All men are struggling through paths within the end lead to me. Sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant fanaticism have long possessed this beautiful earth. They have filled the earth with violence, drenched it often with human blood, destroyed civilization, and sent whole nations to despair. Had it not been for these horrible demons, human society would be far more advanced than it is now. But their time has come, and I fervently hope that the bell that tolled this morning in honor of this convention may be the death knell of fanaticism, of all persecutions with the sword or with the pen, and of all uncharitable feelings between persons wending their way to the same goal. That was his speech. And in that article by Reverend Eric Page, he said, unity is still benefiting from positive practical concepts from Eastern religions. Today we live in a religiously diverse nation. Though its embrace of syncretism, mysticism, and spiritual evolution, unity continues to demonstrate how listening to and honoring a variety of spiritual practices benefits our world. In the Swami's speech, it was pretty radical at the time, right? It's 130 years ago. This is the first recorded organized meeting of interfaith, of people of different religions getting together specifically to talk and to get to understand each other. And his talk of tolerance and universal acceptance. Wow. It took 100 years before the next parliament happened. And since then, since 1993, in the last 30 years, there have been 8. So it happens about every three or so years. It's not a defined period of time. So we're looking forward to the next one, which has not yet been said when it will be or where. So we heard many speakers from different faith traditions talking on this topic of defending freedom and human rights. And in her 8-minute speech, Marianne Williamson was there. I expected her to be on a video, but she was there in person, not campaigning at all. But in her speech, she was talking about human rights and freedoms and how radical that seems and how radical that would be for religions to be talking about it. And she said, religion is radical. It made me think. Religion is radical. Let me look back. Let me look back at the gurus and the teachers and the prophets and the luminaries that our faith traditions have been built upon. Abraham, radical. Hey, folks, there's one God. Jesus, radical. The kingdom of God is within you. Buddha, Muhammad, Guru Nanak of the Sikh tradition, and the contemporary luminaries, Baha'u'llah of the Baha'i faith, Phineas P. Quimby of New Thought, and the founders of neo-paganism movement, as well as the ancient beliefs in Hinduism and the African and indigenous spiritual beliefs. These all teach a connection to the divine. We are a part of the divine. We are part of Great Spirit. We are part of God. And despite this, there is still hate in this world and violence. There's racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, transphobia, homophobia, classism, ableism, ageism, and other forms of othering. When people don't look like you, sound like you, pray like you, we tend to other them. Some may say, it's always been like this. It's always been like this. There's nothing we can do about it. It's normal. Tarina Ahuja, a student at Harvard University, said in her speech, "This is not normal. This is not normal." Unity teaches that we are inherently good. There's one presence, one power in the universe, that is God, the good, omnipotent. We are created in the image of God, therefore we are inherently good. We all want to be treated with respect, right? In all the faith traditions, there is some version of the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. In the Zoroastrian tradition, they say good thought, good word, good deed. We are good. We show up as good. When there is tragedy in the world, we show up. If there's a death in the family, the community gathers together and brings food. If there is destruction, if somebody's house burns down, people come together. They bring them food, they bring them clothing, they find them a new place to live. When there is destruction in the world, people give, they show up. When our country was attacked on September 11th and the towers came down, people showed up. In the little town of Gander in Newfoundland, a whole bunch of planes had to land there because the air was being closed down and they had no place else to go. So these planes landed, and then this little town, they stepped up. Hundreds of people of different faiths and of no faith. They were fed and clothed. It didn't matter what color your skin was, who you loved, who you worshiped or didn't worship, how you prayed. It did not matter. They showed up and they found a place for you. I like to think there's a musical called Come From Away that talks about that, and there's this moment where they're praying, and I hope this is truth. One woman comes up to a Muslim man and just lets him know, it's like, I want to let you know the library's open. If you need a quiet place or just a place to go pray. She honored his tradition that he would need a place to go. That's normal. That's who we are. So going back to good thoughts, good word, good deed. This goes well with unity principle number 3. We create our life experiences through our way of thinking. We can think bad things. If we think bad things, we feel bad things. We see bad things. We can think good thoughts, feel good things will happen, and we can do that all. Bad things will happen, but when we focus on it, then that becomes what we focus on. That's what we start to notice, and that's what we get to experience, and that's what takes over. If we're always thinking how bad things are, we're always going to be down and heavy. If we're thinking how good things are, we're lighter, and we are able to deal with the bad things a little bit easier. We have the power to change our thoughts, like our affirmation. No matter my circumstances, I have the power to choose. I can be in a situation that seems heavy, seems hard to deal with. I can choose to wallow in it, and wallow in it, and wallow in it. Am I going to get anywhere? No. I can choose to change my thought of I can do something. We also had the opportunity, the Reverend Jesse Jackson was honored with a lifetime, for his lifetime work on human rights. And we were reminded of when he would ever get everyone to chant, yes, I am somebody. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. And in his acceptance speech, he was being honored for the work he did. What did he decide to do? Prayed for the world. That's what he did. He prayed for the world. That was his acceptance. So in Sue Riley's song, I Am the Thinker, she wrote, I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts. I have the power to change my life. We have that power to change. We can change our thoughts, change your thought, change your mind, I forget what it is. Change your thoughts, change your mind. Anyway, if you have a negative thought, I am not worthy, let it go. Change that thought. I am worthy. I can do this. I'm a child of God. I am worthy of this. So one of the things that we attended in the evening time, there were three indigenous men outside that had a fire pit. And they met every morning at 7 a.m. and every evening at 7 p.m. Never made it to the 7 a.m. But the 7 p.m. was a fire ritual in which you would, for gratitude. It's a long story. I would like to share it. But we got tobacco, the sacred tobacco, in our hands, and one of the men sang a song of gratitude in his native tongue. And he told us, while I do this, think of the things that you are grateful for throughout this day, through this conference, and pray them into the tobacco. And then at the end, we offered to Great Spirit, to Mother Earth, back to our heart, and then into the fire, letting the smoke go up to Great Spirit. But he also said, we have no power. Great Spirit is the only one with power. Made me think, oh, wait a minute. One power, one presence. That's God. So yes, God has the power. We have 12 powers that we talk about here, or 12 faculties. Well, where do those come from? They come from source. They come from the one power. So there is one power. What we have is responsibility. So we have the power to change our mind. We have the responsibility to change our minds. So yes, we can change our minds, or we don't have to. We can sit idly by and do nothing. We can wallow in our sorrows instead of celebrating the good. If we don't take the responsibility to change, if we do not stand up against racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, transphobia, homophobia, classism, ableism, ageism, and the other forms of othering, I don't like saying against. And Reverend Michael Beckwith did remind us in his speech that Ernest Holmes stated, be for something and against nothing. So we must be for freedom and for human rights. Reverend Michael Beckwith also said, he was like, we are birthing the cosmos. With every breath, with every thought, with every word, with every deed that we do, we are birthing the cosmos and how it will be. Religion has a responsibility to stand up for freedom and human rights for everyone. It starts with me. It starts with you. It starts with us. We must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom. We must stand up for human rights for everyone. Jesus did. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King did. Mother Teresa did. No matter our faith tradition, if one of us is being persecuted, we must stand up for their rights. We must learn to live together, and we can do this, and we cannot do this if we do not listen. We are one. We say that a lot, right? We are one. But we're not the same. The goal is oneness. The goal is not of sameness. We're striving for unity in our diversity. It is in our diversity that makes us stronger and wiser. We must stop othering people. We must speak truth. Not my truth, not your truth, not our truth, but divine spiritual truth. That we are all individual expressions of the divine. We are all children of God. We were born to shine, each and every one of us. See everyone as love. Listen to them. Make them feel seen and heard. Choose kindness. No matter my circumstances, I have the power to choose. I have the responsibility to choose. Be vulnerable in your story. Be vulnerable. Share your story. Perhaps your story will inspire someone, or you may find out they're going through the same thing that you are. You will find that there is a connection. There is a connection between each and every one of us. I wasn't going to talk about this. One of our speakers that we went to was an hour program. It was delivered by a scientist who challenged us to look at everything as sacred, every written word as sacred. There's even a group that's going through the Harry Potter books and reading them as if it is sacred text. And what lessons you can learn out of that. And he also reminded us that with the science, the air that we breathe in the oxygen and we breathe out. And as we breathe out, we're breathing out a part of us. And what scientists in their research shows, with every breath you take in, you could possibly be breathing in Jesus. You could be breathing in Muhammad. You could be breathing in dinosaurs. We all share the same DNA as the stars. A funny picture that he posted up was pictures of all these things and our shared DNA. So there was us, of course there was chimpanzees, and down here on the end was a banana in which we share 50% of DNA with. So you're all bananas, all right? Some people might think we are. But let's find our similarities. Let's celebrate them. Let's honor the differences. When we other and are disrespectful, we are in fact disrespecting the divine. For that other is also a child of God. So how do we come together? In the final gathering, Jerry White from the United Religions Initiative had said, we all have these similarities. We all need connection. We all need security. And we all need stimulation. Nature, culture, music, dance, experiences. So when we connect with people who look differently, believe differently, dress differently, share our thoughts and concerns, share in common activities, we can start to end religious biases and create and cultivate a culture of peace for earth and all living things. Because when you look around, and I bought a t-shirt, it says all my relations. It's trees and all kinds of animals. You look around this room, we're all cousins. Along with the Hindus, we don't have to agree on the path. We can agree that each path is valid and leads to the divine. Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. Buddha said, love is a gift of one's innermost soul to another, so both can be whole. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. The way is not in the sky, the way is in the heart. The prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, none of you will have faith until he loves for his brother or his neighbor what he loves for himself. Nanak, the Sikh guru, said, love your neighbor as yourself. Baha'u'llah, the founder of Baha'i, if thine eyes be turned towards mercy, forsake the things that profit thee, and cleave unto that which will profit mankind. And if thine eyes be turned towards justice, choose thou for thy neighbor that which thou choosest for thyself. And from the indigenous people Shawnee, do not kill or injure your neighbor, for it is not him that you injure yourself. But do good to him, therefore add to his days of happiness as you would add to your own. I'm going to read to you a poem by the Sufi poet Hafiz. It sounds more like a conversation than a poem, but once a man came to me and spoke for hours about the great visions of God he felt he was having. He asked me for confirmation, saying, are these wondrous dreams true? I replied, how many goats do you have? He looked surprised, and he said, I'm speaking of sublime visions, and you ask about goats? I spoke again, saying, yes, brother, how many do you have? Well, Hafiz, I have 62. And how many wives? Again, he looked surprised, then said 4. How many rose bushes in your garden? How many children? Are your parents still alive? Do you feed birds in the winter? And to all he answered, "Then I said, 'You asked me if I thought your visions were true. I would say that they were if they made you become more human, more kind to every creature and plant that you know.'" The Parliament of World Religions called for a rise in consciousness. This is a rise in awareness, a rise in understanding, a rise in listening, a rise in empathy, a rise in love. Our unity faith is grounded in prayer. And we know it's not enough to just pray. We must then take steps. We must take the steps each day and pray for freedom for all people. We must pray every day that every human being is honored their sacred right to be who they truly are, to love who they love, to worship and pray in the way they desire, to live in harmony and in peace. 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18, it says, "Rejoice always, pray without ceasing. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God." Let us pray. Take a deep breath in. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in deeply with each breath. Envision your connection with the divine. And may my words be yours. I call on Divine Spirit, the Holy One, the one presence, the one power, God, in me, around me, beyond me. I draw upon the wisdom of my ancestors of the past, present, and future. I see everyone as holy children of God. I honor their paths and traditions. I see all people free to live, love, and pray side by side. I awaken to the needs of others and stand for them when they are being persecuted. I remember that no matter my circumstances, I have the power and the responsibility to choose peace, to choose love, to choose harmony. I also recognize my responsibility to recognize the divine in all living things, for they are all my relations. I am a prayer for peace. With each step, with each breath, wherever I go, peace goes with me. And so it is. Amen. Aho. Ashe. Blessed be.